Thank you everyone for joining in once again today. Good evening, everyone. I am Yashima Jain, a member of the organizing team of Solar Decathlon India. We are excited for you to become a part of the growing Solar Decathlon India ecosystem. The 9-month Solar Decathlon India experience, as participants from last year said, is invigorating and provides a wealth of knowledge to participating teams. And this year, we hope to outdo ourselves and give you much more. One of the critical questions you may have gotten is to how to find a real estate developer to collaborate with you. And I have been there myself, and with this webinar today, we will give you the answer to that question. Today, my colleague Jagdish will talk briefly about who is a project partner, who can be yours, and how to convince a developer to become your project partner. I also have with me the director of Solar Decathlon India, Prasad Vaidya, who will answer many of your questions from his experience in the past decathlons. Now, before we get to it, I would like to thank our program supporters and affiliates for this year. These organizations have provided immense support to Solar Decathlon India in the first year and catalyzed our transition to a net zero future. If your organization is willing to join us, please feel free to reach out to us. Now, one of the biggest challenges that past participants mentioned was fulfilling the multidisciplinary criteria. Architects and engineers finding each other to pair up for the challenge is difficult. And for this, we have created a forum on the learning management system where contacts of all faculty mentors who have registered this year will be available. Once you register your team with 5 members, your faculty will have access to all the contacts of other registered teams, and that will help you in forming your multidisciplinary team. Now, before we begin today, let's take 2 polls. Our first question for you today is, what is your status with your project partner? And I have launched the poll and I request everyone to participate so that we get an understanding of where you are at with your project partner. We have 3 options. One is found a project partner already. Second is in a conversation, but no commitment yet. And third is not able to approach anyone. All right, I'm getting many responses. I request everyone to participate so that we can steer our conversation today in that direction. Once again, the question is, what is your status with your project partner? And the options are already found a project partner. The second option is in a conversation, but no commitment yet. And third is not able to approach anyone. All right, and I will now end the poll. And okay, and I will now share the results. So Jagdish.
Yeah, so it seems only 5%, 4 teams have found project partner. I'm assuming 4 teams, and 29% are in conversation but no commitment yet. And 51 teams, almost 66% are not able to approach anyone.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and we have another question before we begin our session for today, and I will launch that as well. All right, so our question is, what kind of project partner do you intend to collaborate with? And the options are a private company, an NGO, a corporate company, a government agency, or others. So requesting everyone to kindly participate here as well. Okay, we have a lot of responses coming in. All right. And I will now end the poll. And Jagdish, here are our results.
Okay, interesting. 46% are trying to tie up with a private company. I'm assuming commercial developers. 14% are trying to tie up with an NGO. 12% are approaching corporate companies. Surprisingly, 22% are trying to go with government agencies. Okay. 6% are into others category. Maybe I'm assuming independent entities or something.
Right. Okay. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Jagdish.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a minute. Yeah. Assuming only 4% of you have got project partners, you will be listening to me very attentively. I was worried who will listen to this session. Anyway, so before we get into the larger picture, let's understand what is a project partner. What do we mean by project partner? Project partner are these developers or real estate companies who are thinking of coming up with a project, a real project, and who are willing to associate with you to give the information that is required for the project and also support you in terms of knowledge wise, if you have any doubts, etc. And one of the prerequisites is like you have to get to work on a real project. It seems like it cannot be a project that a project partner has in the past and you're trying to propose a new alternative on the same thing. So it has to be a real project that is going to come up in the future. And each team need to find one project partner to develop their designs from up to the tender document level kind of scenario by the time you get into D4. If you look at last year, we had around 103 colleges, formulated almost 75 teams. And last year, I think barring 20 teams, majority of them found project partners on their own. Maybe at the time of registration, they were also in the similar kind of situation as you are. We thought like the situation will be changed, but that time also the people were in lockdown and corona. This year also we are in lockdown and corona. Everybody is screen fatigued and email fatigued. So I can understand the complexities. Can we go next? Yashima?
Yes.
Yeah. Even though I've defined what's the project partner, you have to really understand who's not a project partner. Many of you confuse architects and consultants who are working on an existing building or a proposed building to be a project partner. They can only be your knowledge partners or industry partners. See, the project partner is somebody who's a building owner, okay, who is actually investing into the building, who is actually paying for it, who's actually owning it or running it, okay? It can be an individual, it can be a company, it can be an organization that either owns the land or invests into developing a project with somebody who owns the land. So basically, you are talking with the building owner, complete building owner or part building owner. You cannot be talking to a consultant. Suppose in case you have, what do you say, if you know an architect who says like, he can introduce you to a building owner and you can tie up with the building owner directly, that is possible. Okay, but as far as you have to be concerned, you have to make sure the project partner is a building owner or a stakeholder first. Okay, so keep that in mind. Yashima, can we go next? Yeah, so, and we will see who all can be a project partner because you guys have several divisions. Each division may or may not be having the similar kind of persons. Suppose if you are looking at multifamily housing, you can approach commercial developers who are doing any kind of group housing or apartment building project. You can also approach government agencies. Many government agencies and PSUs may be building housing, high-rise housing for their own staff. So that is also one possible thing. You can also approach city development authorities like municipal organizations or any kind of semi-governmental organizations who are trying to put up public housing projects. And you can also get into cooperative housing societies where group of individuals have come together and got land and they're trying to develop it on their own. So these are the kind of entities that you can approach for multifamily housing to be your project partner. When it comes to single family housing, anybody who has small plot of land cannot be a project partner for your single family housing. Here, the criteria is you can pick up a small plot in an approved plotted colony. It has to be part of a larger plotted colony in which you're able to try out various configurations. So make sure you are approaching somebody who's developing a colony, like group of plots, not one single plot. Okay. So this is for single family housing. When it comes to educational building, your project partners may be slightly different than the housing sector. It will be educational societies or trusts who have land, who have funds to develop. It will be government agencies, like every municipal corporation in every city has got land in which they have to develop public schools. And every town and country planning authority also is sitting on some sort of land. Like if a developer gets 100 acres of plotting area proposed, then there's certain part allocated for developing amenities and resources, one of which is schools. So if you approach through government agencies also, you will find a lot of upcoming or not yet developed projects for which sites are clearly defined. Okay. And you can also talk to your own college, because your own college may be coming up with a new campus, or they may be coming up with an expansion, or they may be trying to do something. So you can also talk to your own college, but make sure like you're not talking to your own college to develop hostels or something. It has to be an educational building. Okay. And when it comes to office building category, commercial developers of different variety are there who are investing in office building stock. You can also talk to owner occupied organizations. For example, Infosys is a good example. Infosys doesn't lease, they develop their own buildings. They buy land, they build their own buildings, they operate their own. So they're a sort of an entity in itself. Okay. And apart from that, there are like a lot of other organizations. You can see like Suzlon, a windmill company. It has presence all over the world, but they have built their global headquarters in Pune. So they are developing office spaces for their own consumption. Apart from these things, a lot of government offices and public and semi-public. It's not only the Central Vista project, a lot of other entities, like for example, Municipal Corporation Gurgaon doesn't have its own building. They are sitting out of a rented building. They keep moving every 2-3 years, but they are sitting on a piece of land in which they want to develop sometime in the future. So you can approach all these government agencies who are sitting in rented places. Okay. And apart from these things, NGOs. So any entity that is developing an office for themselves. Okay. Just look at the minimum built up area criteria. Barring that, you will be able to talk to any building owner who is trying to put up an office space. Now, when it comes to community resilient shelters, this is where most of you will find a bit of challenge, because this is a building typology that is not prevalently existing. This is like sort of a futuristic thing that is supposed to be done. Most of the trusts and entities are involved in post-disaster management kind of scenario. Nobody is doing it for the preemptive thing. But one thing is there, lots of people are doing community halls. See, community resilient shelter is nothing but any community hall that you have built in a disaster prone area, which will give shelter to all these residents during the event of the disaster, where you are cut off from water, power, food supply, and other things. It's able to sustain that group of families and their livestock for 10 days till the time help reaches, and they're able to have their own fresh water, energy, food, and everything. So this is where you have to creatively talk to state disaster management authorities. And there are NGOs and charitable trusts who are into disaster management, you can speak to them. So for example, schools is one of the, if any trust is proposing a school in a in a flood prone area or something, you can design it to be a potential community resilient shelter in the event of a calamity. So this is where you'll have to think slightly out of the box and talk to private entities which are getting into CSR, or also commercial developments which are little community centric. Like if any Tata kind of trust is there, so they do a lot of CSR. They also reach out to Mahindra kind of scenario. They also reach out and try to make a difference to the larger community. So this is where you have to think out of the box and try. In case something doesn't pan out, you can always reach out to us.
Jagdish, I want to add a couple of things
Yes,
here
please.
on
Yes,
community
please.
resilience shelter. So there are NGOs that work, with sometimes with self-help groups, sometimes in community areas, and they are thinking of doing community centers. If you know about these and if you make them aware of the need for community resilience shelters, they might consider changing their program to become a community resilience shelter from a community center. We had a project like this last year from one of the NGOs that agreed to change their normal community center into a resilience shelter to include the program for that. Also, sometimes you have developers who do large commercial developments, and they might have what is called a community center within that development. So again, there is a possibility that that program could be tweaked to become a community resilience shelter. So there are possibilities beyond what you might see in a normal project to be able to tweak it to make it a community resilience shelter.
That gives me one idea, Prasad.
Yeah.
Lots of these PMAY, affordable housing colonies that are coming up, these are like very tiny things. Like people are buying plots for very small amount and they're putting up semi-permanent or permanent kind of houses. So those colonies also may have these community center sites, which can also be potential community resilient shelters. So there's a little bit of out of box thinking required. Last year also a lot of college teams wanted to participate in this segment for the right reasons, but they had a little bit of challenge to find the project partners, but some managed to find with really out of the box ideas. And the last and most interesting and most challenging segment I would feel in Solar Decathlon India this year is on-site construction worker housing. Okay, this is something, it's completely out of the box in a way that rest of all the building typologies have to be on a permanent site. It's a fixed site. It has to be there. But this on-site construction worker housing can be assembled, dismantled. So it moves from project to project. It's essentially a labor camp, but it's not a temporary labor camp. Most of the construction projects or infrastructure projects go from anywhere between 3 to 10 years. So 3 to 10 years, these construction workers are staying on site, especially because of the COVID and all these things. It's mandated that people have to stay within the site. So here you can look into different type of project partners. Like, for example, all these BOT contractors, build, operate, transfer kind of scenario, the ones who are developing roads, the ones who are developing public infrastructure, they also have construction worker housing. And every large scale construction, whether it's apartment building, office building, anything that goes beyond 3 years, now it requires a on-site construction worker housing. And your EPC contractors, engineering, procurement, and construction. So these people like L&T, Shapoorji Pallonji, any construction companies, like they may fall in the category of consultants or non-project owners in other scenarios, but in this scenario, they can be your project partner. So L&T may not be owning the building, but L&T is also sort of a consultant or it's offering services to a building owner of building the thing. But in this category, they can be your project partner. Okay. So if there is any doubts, you write them down into the question and answer chat window, and we'll come back to it. Yashima, can we move to the next, please? And what kind of projects are acceptable? So this is also one thing that you have to understand. There's no fixed kind. I have listed them down based on the order of like what I say appealability. Like if you take a greenfield project, which means like nothing is existing, the building owner or the developer may be sitting on empty land and in a zone that will get the permission, or he's sitting on the permission. He may be thinking of developing it in the next 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year. That is an ideal project for you to catch, because he would know the basic building brief, exactly what we are requiring, and whatever proposal that you come up with, he will be able to compare it with the proposal that he already has developed or he may develop. You will be in a position to influence his thinking or her thinking and be able to implement part or whole of your design if everything works out. And another interesting project, more than the greenfield project, is future phases of existing projects. Most of the large scale projects do not get constructed 100% at one time. So there may be a 20 acres of residential project where first 10 acres have been built. The rest of the 10 acres, the developer is sitting on an empty land. He has got the approvals, he has got plans and everything. He knows exactly what he's going to do. Maybe 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. So that will be an ideal project for you because you are sitting on the baseline. He knows exactly what he is going to do, what it's going to cost, how he is going to do, what kind of materials. So that will give you a good benchmark for you to develop your proposal and influence them to be able to do the phase 2 in the way that you are saying. So these are also eligible, like, okay. And last kind is projects under construction. In the sense, you found a project partner, you found everything, all boxes are ticked, but he says like, listen, I may start the construction in the next 2 months or before you complete the project competition. Okay. Even that is also fine because they may break ground, they may put the foundations and everything, they may put out the superstructure, but still there is a good chance that you will be able to get few ideas implemented. And you may not know, construction may get delayed by the time you complete the project. But ideal scenarios are the first two. Last ones are also not bad. We are not going to judge you or saying like this is unfit. But only thing is, do not take retrofit projects. Like there's an existing building and you're going to modify or tweak. Brownfield projects are not acceptable. So these are the three kinds which we expect you to find. Prasad, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so if you have a building, if you have a project where there is an existing building and the entire thing is going to be demolished and a new building is going to be built, that kind of a brownfield is acceptable. But you don't want to pick a project where an existing building with an existing structure is going to be tweaked or changed to make it for that kind of a retrofit. That's not part of the challenge this year.
See, basically, whether you're taking a clean site or whether you're going to take a site that will be demolished, you are basically starting with the clean slate and the requirements. So we are not interested in how you are demolishing the building, what you are taking. So for this project, because we have to compare you with other teams, so it's better to stick to greenfield or future or existing future phases of existing projects, or projects that may start construction within the next year. That's also, to us, it's greenfield. And worst case scenario, if you find a project which you say it's going to be demolished and you're going to start from scratch, that's also is fine, acceptable. Yashima, can we go next, please? So this is something that you have to tell your project partner very carefully. Okay, in the sense, most of the project partners, if you go and say like, okay, we are going to design a building, we are a team, they may confuse that you are trying to replace their architect. And when you say we are going to do everything for free, they may think like, oh, nothing comes for free. So I may have to sign a bond or an agreement that I'll have to implement these guys' design or something. So clarify first and foremost, even though I have put it as the last point, there are no commitments, no strings attached. They have no liability to implement your design, and you will not be replacing their architect or claiming the role of an architect in any manner. This is purely an academic competition, and they don't need to sponsor you. They don't need to pay for your bills or in any manner. Okay. But they are free to, the only onus that you have is you will be able to see your ideas getting implemented, and you will also gain that confidence. And this aspect you guys clarify upfront, because last year competition we have seen, there were instances where 2-3 project partners have called us because the project team has given them our numbers. So I had to convince, you don't need to build, you don't need to pay for anything. Even though the team has explained the scenario, they still misunderstood. So what I suggest is you read the project partner document that we have provided in the website, and we can also throw a link here in the chat. Read that and tell them this is like a no commitment scenario, and we are here to change their perception. And when it comes, then the next problem that they'll have is like, oh, do we have to spend a lot of time with you guys? Do we have to give you all our information, confidential information? You can very well clarify. When they're giving you in the letter, they can tell, okay, this is the information that you shouldn't be disclosing. And all we need is very simple, brief description about the project site, project brief, any financial or market constraint that they are going through. And they just need to spend 2-3 hours of time briefing you and answering your questions in the beginning. And they may need to do it again once during the competition. And if they want to take interest in the outcome of the design solutions, they are welcome. It's not mandated. And anything else that they want to provide you with, you will be more than grateful. So beyond that thing, you're not going to take any confidential information from them. The project partner is not liable to give their existing designs to you. If they want to share with you, that's well and good. And based on the experience that we have seen, more than 60% of the project partners were very proactive, and they actually communicated quite well with the teams who have worked. So I don't see any challenge, but for the ice breaking, be clear to mention that no sponsorship, no commitment, and they're not liable to implement the design. But what we have seen is if you have done good work, the project partners will go out of the way and try and implement it on their own. Like we have seen it in almost 5 projects, Prasad, where the project partners were excited to find ways in which they can engage the teams beyond the competition.
Okay. Yeah, and you know that really is the big win for you guys who are participating. You know, if a project partner really decides to take your design forward, there is nothing like it. That's the ultimate win for you guys. So you should hope, you should want that to happen, but you shouldn't expect that that's what's going to happen. Work in a way that makes it realistic and practical for the project partner to implement the solutions that you're talking about. But don't go into the discussion with them saying that that's what they have to do.
Yeah, Yashima, can we go next, please? So what are the benefits to a project partner? You have to tell them, right? There's no free lunch. So you say like they'll get exposure in the sense like they'll get exposure to the larger community, which is looking towards progressively changing the way that they are building. So Solar Decathlon India has like last year, nearly around 100 project partners came, and almost like 150 plus knowledge partners, industry partners have come. They may be companies who are doing technologies, they may be consultants who are doing things, and near about 150 institutes have come. And the jury panel also consists of eminent figures from the industry. So any project partner who is supporting a team which crosses each and every level, they are going to get more and more increased exposure. Okay, that will also help them with their brand perspective, with their way of doing their things. And secondly, they'll also get customized solutions without actually doing anything. They can be doing business as usual for the next 1 year after being your project partner. They need not think anything about net zero energy, net zero water design. But at the end of the competition, you're going to give them a document with all the support documents. This is the alternate way. Please implement it if you want. So that is something that's a customized solution that they will get for their things, and they'll be able to give inputs. So that is one thing that every project partner would love to have, but they can't do. When they're doing business as usual, they cannot be reinventing the wheel also parallelly. And another thing is recruitment opportunities, in the sense, it's very difficult for project partners or anybody to find youngsters or professionals who are tuned not only with their ideals, but also with their project. Okay. Now imagine you guys have worked hard for a year on this competition. You have developed the building type. The project partner is going to come up with this building in the next 2 years or 3 years. If he has to pick up some architects or some engineers to be on his own team, on the client side team, who will he look forward to? He'll be looking to you guys, who knows the ethos, who knows the way the future buildings have to be made, who also know his project better than anybody else that may be designing the thing. So that is something that will also help them and also help you. Okay. Apart from all these things, they'll also, it's a learning experience for everybody, because they are not only, the project partners are not only going to see your building proposal, they'll also be able to see proposals made by other teams after the jury is over. So he is able to look at, okay, I'm doing an affordable housing project. Let me see what are the other variations. So he's also already sensitized because he worked with you to see other options and alternatives. So he'll be able to learn things beyond what he is doing in a conventional business as usual year versus an year as a project partner with you guys. Next, Yashima, unless until you want to add anything, Prasad.
Nope. Nothing.
Okay. So how can you approach a project partner? Okay, so there are things that are written here you can read. Okay, basically you read your project partner guide that is there. And most importantly, this is an exercise in leveraging your network for you. Okay, imagine you passing out the college, trying to get a project for yourself. So you want to go to somebody who has the money, who has the land, who has the motive. So similar way you are trying your project partner, you're leveraging your family network, friend network, professional network, and you're also trying to leverage your faculty contacts, your institutional contacts, because 15 of you and 2-3 institutes, everybody put together, you are sitting on a tremendous network, right? You can even be creative and put out in social media also. We are inviting entries for project partners. So sky is the limit. Think outside the box. Okay. The least effective way of communicating that we have seen in the past is through email. You found an email info@dlf.com and sent a long email and expect that somebody is going to be your project partner. That will be a difficult proposition. So try and reach out through the personal connects. Try and make phone calls where possible, and try and get one-on-one meeting, whether it's Zoom, Skype, or a phone call. So that will be far more effective than you emailing. Not that I am discouraging you from emailing. If you know a person, you are taking reference of somebody and sending an email before you make a call, that's also a good idea. You can, okay. So think outside the box and make sure, like, even though it's free, project partners are not going to spend their time freely with you. Okay, because of COVID and every reason, everybody is too busy. All the free time is sucked up in lots of meetings and seminars and everything. So be patient and be consistent. And when you're approaching government agencies and other things, communicate the no strings attached, and it's a win-win scenario very clearly to them. Okay, and it will also help you to, if you are, let's say you are approaching an NGO or a government organization for community resilient shelter or an affordable housing or any kind of scenario, go to the Solar Decathlon India website, look at last year competition entries, download the winning entry always, right? Show it to them. This is the kind of work that you will get. Last year in this scenario, the project partner had this kind of information. That will also help them understand, okay, what he may be getting at the end of the association with you. So that will be also a good idea. You can send any of the winning entries. This is what happened in the last year. This could be you this year with us, and we are a better college, or we are a better team, we are a committed team. So you have to pitch yourself, basically. Okay. And if you have any other questions, apart from what I've spoken, what's written on the slide, you can put it in the Q&A. Yashima, can we move, please?
Jagdish, a couple of comments on the previous.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So on bullet number 2, where Jagdish talked about using your faculty contact or your team's contacts, remember that there is one very, very useful resource that you have, which is your alumni. Students who are passed out, who have finished and are now in the profession, will have the contacts to potential project partners. If your college or your university has an alumni association, that's even better, because the level of contacts that you will have through them will be amazing. So use your alumni association or alumni that's very important. The other thing is that especially when you are communicating with local government agencies or government agencies for projects, you can look up the Solar Decathlon India website, and you can see that the Solar Decathlon India is supported by 2 government organizations. One is the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE, and the other one is the Department of Science and Technology. So make sure that this is something that you do explain or mention to potential government project partners, because government to government connections always help. So that's it, Jagdish.
Yeah. So that's a good scenario, and basically what you need to get is a verbal agreement, and you get a simple letter of confirmation from the project partner along with the brief, and we are going to send you the draft of the letter that you need to get. It's quite simple and straightforward, and it's not a binding agreement that they're signing. It's just a intimation that they're giving to Solar Decathlon India and confirming that they are associating with this team. So go through last year challenge, look at the kind of project partners list we have, look at the kind of institutes that have tied up, look at the work done by previous year's students. If your college has put out a team, you already are sitting on a win-win scenario. So there may be colleges which are participating again. So we don't need to tell you, you're already sitting on a knowledge base on your own. You can show, okay, these are the entries we have put up. We were one of the shortlisted teams. So it'll help you get a good project, and it'll help you convince your project partner.
And this experience of looking for a project partner is a very important learning experience. So later on in life, when you are part of the industry, when you're part of the profession, this is something that you have to do all the time. Here, you have an opportunity to do that with no cost to a potential customer. If you can't make this sale, imagine how difficult it's going to be able to pitch yourself to a potential developer or a government agency who wants to build a building where you're actually going to ask for fees. So this should be really easy, right? And so practice that, and the future will become more easier.
See, essentially, you are striking a barter. You give me the information, I'll give you the knowledge. Okay, so it's not like do not project it as free. You are giving it to them. If they give you the information, if they be your project partner, you'll give them the net zero energy solution that they'll be able to implement. Yashima, can we move next, please? So you have heard all these motivational things and all the tips and tricks, but still you may not be able to find a project partner because you're trying to do some sort of building, or you couldn't find, or somebody else found a project partner already, or something happened for unforeseen reasons. Nothing to worry. We have certain project partners who are tied up with us. in case a team, despite all their best efforts, are not able to find a project partner for whatsoever reason, Solar Decathlon India will assign you a team. Okay, but we will not be able to tell you, okay, these are the list of project partners we have, you choose. So you'll not be having a choice. We have been asked by the project partners to keep their identities confidential. So if you can't find a project partner, we will assign one for you. Yashima, can you go next, please? Okay, now if I am saying like, I'll give you a project partner, why should you search a project partner on your own? Because what we give you comes with strings attached and a lot of disadvantages. In the sense, we may give the same project to multiple teams in a division. It's not like we have 200 project partners lying with us. We have 1 or 2 good project partners and who have agreed to give us 1 or 2 projects. So if there are 10 teams in one division who don't have a project partner, we may be assigning the same project or 2 projects across 10 teams. So you will be sharing the project. That's one. Second is everything is predetermined. In the sense, you'll not be able to choose the location or a climate zone. So your team may be sitting in Hyderabad, but you may be getting a project in Guwahati. So you may or may not be able to go to the project location and look at the conditions, experience the things. It will add a lot of other things. Versus had you had your own project partner in your own city, you will be able to go talk to the person. You'll be able to visit the site if you have any doubts multiple times. That will also help you design and think and put up a proposal better. Okay. And other thing that will happen is what size and scale of the project, that also we don't know. It may be, you may be wanting to do a mega project, but you may be given a tiny lot. Saying like, okay, design office for 100 people. But whereas you are trying to do a mega project for 10,000 people and say like, you had some idea. Or you may be wanting to do a small project in a larger detail, but you may be ended up with a big monster where you may not be able to go into that kind of detail. And the last and least preferred thing is you will not be having a direct communication to your project partner until unless you have crossed the D3 level, deliverable 3 level. Okay, only if you have made it to one of the shortlisted teams, only then your project partner may speak to you directly. Otherwise, you will be attending a similar webinar, one project partner and 20 teams connecting to a Zoom thing, typing out Q&As in the comment section, they'll be answering. So this is something, these are the demerits of not finding a project partner on your own. So try and find a project partner on your own as much as possible. Prasad, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I just want to stress this, I guess, that having access is important. And that access is in terms of, site location. You may want to visit the site, you may want to, look at the community, talk to some of the consumers or customers over there. And all of that is something that you don't get access to. The location is remote, especially in today's times with COVID going on and travel being restricted. The second thing is that if we assign the project to you, then you have very, very limited access to the project partner. There may be one webinar or something where the project partner will come, introduce the project to you and may have some discussions with you, but that's about it. If you get your own project partner, the amount of interaction that you get from a project partner will be higher. The interaction will be higher and the guidance that you might get might also be higher. So it really helps to have that kind of access, and that's why it's important that you find a project partner of your own that becomes your special relationship.
And based on our past experience that we have seen, the 70 teams and their project partners, the teams which have found the project partners within their vicinity had a lot more interactions, and they were able to develop their ideas in a better manner because they had unlimited interactions with their project partners and their industry partners who may have been suggested by the project partner also. It helps you put up a better proposal. Yashima, next please. So we conclude our session for now. But I suggest that you look at these two things very carefully. You read the competition guide and identify the relevant portions. You also read the project partner guide. A link will be posted after the slideshow is over if you can't find it. And armed with these two, you'll be able to make a better pitch based on whatever we have, told you so far. And with this, we end our one-way monologue and open for questions.
Right. Thanks, Jagdish. All right, we have had several questions coming in, and I'll start taking them one by one.
Yes, please.
Our first question is, can we have an educational trust as a project partner?
100%. Educational trust is an ideal project partner for your educational building category. Okay. And if they have some sort of worker housing, or if they have any faculty housing, an educational trust can also be your project partner for multifamily housing. Okay. And if an educational trust is trying to put up their administration building, then they can be a project partner for your office building. Okay, as long as they're fitting the criteria.
Right. Thanks, Jagdish. Next question. I am assuming that some of the teams who might work on other building types except construction site worker housing, their project partner and project may have a possibility to have a worker housing in the vicinity of the project site. Is there any way to leverage that information from other teams or their project partners?
100%. If you have seen in today's webinar, on the third slide, we said like there's a forum where the faculty can communicate with each other. You tell your faculty lead, so and so guys team has a good project. They are doing a office building. Can we talk to their project partner and get a on-site construction worker housing out? So that's actually a very good idea. That is out of the box thinking. I know you guys are lazy, but you are on the right track. So let your faculty exchange information with the other faculty on the Moodle forum that we have showed you. And this is accepted, and this is actually good.
Right. Thanks, Jagdish. Next question. For a community resilience shelter, can we remodel an existing school or building?
That is brownfield project. That is not something that we wouldn't want you to do. Okay. You have to find a greenfield project, which is going to be coming up.
So Jagdish, I think maybe the word greenfield will be confusing for students.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can take an existing school building, but you have to start the building from the foundation up. If you do a remodel of an existing building, then it's going to be difficult to achieve the levels of efficiency and do the kind of work that is needed. And you'll be at a disadvantage. This is why retrofits of existing buildings are something that we are not doing and allowing in the current competition. Okay, so you find a school find a school building, and if you're going to if the project partner is willing to raise it to the ground and build something, definitely you can do that for a community resilience shelter.
Right. Thanks, Prasad. Thanks, Jagdish. Next question. Is there any way to contact or reach out to last year project partners?
If your college has dealt with one project partner in the last year, you can reach out to your own team and your own faculty lead and reach out to the existing project partner. There is no bar that you have to bring a new project partner every year. If your college has associated with one project partner last year, and if he still has the same project that he wants to give it to you this year, that is also 100% acceptable.
Yeah.
Prasad?
I think perhaps the question that is being asked and that is hidden behind the question here is, can Solar Decathlon India provide contacts of last year's project partners? The answer to that is no.
But we have showed all the logos of project partners who have been with us last year. See, contact information is confidential. So they have given it to us so that we'll be able to reach out to them. We will not be able to distribute their contacts with the general students, but you know who have participated last year, who is aware, so you'll be able to reach out to them.
Right. Next question. What are some of the benefits that we can tell the project partner?
I think we have already listed them out. See, one of the best benefits that they'll have is, see, every developer, it's not that developers are not trying to do net zero energy buildings or buildings that make sense. They are already under tremendous pressure to deliver whatever that they have agreed upon, right? They will not be able to run a parallel team, invest into research and other things, and try and see if they can do an alternate while they are doing their own things. So everybody has paucity of resources. So you are giving them a lateral thinking, alternate option without they having to spend time, energy, resources, and money. And they'll be able to compare it because you are doing an apple to apple comparison. On your site, your requirements, your budget, I will design. So that is the best benefit that they have. And second thing is they are free to not implement it. So there's no liability on them. Okay, so this is the crux. And apart from this thing, we have listed out things in detail in the project partner guide. I suggest you, look at them. If you have a specific question, please type it underneath. We will try to re-articulate our answer.
So a couple of other benefits that you can pitch to the project partner is that they, by providing a project and setting up this relationship, they now get to have a relationship with your institution. And yours is an academic institution, they are a private sector entity. So now they are bringing about an academic institution and private company partnership in a sense. And it has a partnership with very little at stake. So they may look at it positively. You also have to be able to pitch to them that their project information gives you opportunity in your learning. And so there may be certain project partners who are actually interested in helping students and academic institutions out. And this is an opportunity for them to do that. So that may be another way to pitch it as a benefit.
Right. Thanks, Prasad. Next question. Is the team leader the only one who can approach the project partner?
From our side, we don't have any restrictions. Actually, anybody can approach a project partner. Okay. So have we put any restrictions, Yashima? I don't think we have.
No. In fact, we would say team leaders, team members, faculty, parents, alumni, friends, wherever you can get somebody to approach on your behalf is fine. This is the way the world works, and we need to learn about that.
So network and divide and conquer.
Right. Next question. If we take a live project, have a discussion for the requirements and get the site requirements also from the project partner, but no confirmation that they will execute a design, will that be acceptable?
It is 100% acceptable. This is one of the things you are actually giving an assurance to your project partner. You may or may not execute my design or your design. He may or may not be building this project in the next year or the year later or the year later. He's sitting on a piece of land, and on that piece of land, he's going to come up with a school building or an office building or a residential building. When he will start, he is also not sure. Which design he'll implement, he is also not sure. That is 100% acceptable scenario. The letter that we are asking from the project partner to be submitted to Solar Decathlon India contains very simple information. Yes, I so-and-so has given so-and-so information to this team. I've agreed to be their project partner. That's it. Beyond that thing, there is no confirmation that we need from a project partner.
And from your side, you shouldn't even bring the confirmation up in the initial discussions, or not just confirmation, but even the execution of design. Don't bring that up. Just say that we want project information so that we can design around that, and we'll give you whatever we come up with. and let that be the focus of the discussion.
Right. Next question. Does Solar Decathlon India provide a format to get consent from the project partner, or we can ask the team, we as a team can ask the letter from the project partner? Yeah, I mean, yeah, Prasad.
Yeah, so don't worry about the letter right now. And yes, we will provide you with a very simple letter template. Right now, just work with getting a verbal confirmation. More importantly, you need to get the project information and get them to agree to it. Confirmation and all that comes later on, and we will give you a very simple language letter that has no commitment from their side.
Yep. Thanks, Prasad. Next question. If we have a project partner and he has his own site, but in between, if he decides to build something different, then is it okay to have the same site, or do we need to change it?
It's like this in life, anything can happen. So we are not going to hold you accountable if your project partner has changed his mind middle of the competition or towards the end of the competition. But try and look for project partners who have intention to do it. If they are confused, that's all right. You need to, take credible project site, and you need to get proper information, like what are the budget they want, what are the market challenges that they have, what are the financial constraints they have. You find a project partner who can give you as much clear information as possible, so that you will be able to work against that baseline and get a better design out. And
halfway through the challenge, if your project partner changes their mind for whatever reason, we are not going to ask you to make changes.
Yeah, it's like once you have given in deliverable one, this is my project partner, you have given the letter, you have given the things, it's locked. So whatever happens later in reality to that project, we are not going to come and say like, okay, you are qualified, disqualified, or change it.
All right. Next question. Can we have a hostel building under the category of an education building?
Madhumati, unfortunately, we cannot have that as educational building. We are only looking at, when we are saying educational building, we are looking at classroom kind of scenario. There also, we have clearly defined it has to have at least 300 students should be able to study in that building. So essentially, you're looking at, even if you divide it by 20, 60 classrooms or 50 classrooms kind of scenario. So an educational building category has to be, academic. Okay, it can't even be an administration building.
Yeah, so if you look at the project, the way the project is defined in the guide, you will notice that there is a certain proportion of the area of the building that needs to be dedicated to teaching or learning spaces. If for whatever reason you have a hostel that somehow meets that criteria because you have a bunch of classrooms that are part of the hostel, sure, but a pure hostel building does not qualify for the reason that it doesn't have teaching learning spaces.
And another question that I'm preempting and saying, now this hostel building cannot be fit for multi-family housing also, or single family housing also. Okay, hostels without the complete family, it's family units. Okay, hostels are not fit for multi-family housing category. It has to have dwelling units. But your faculty housing, on the other hand, will be eligible for multi-family housing if there are more than 8 dwelling units attached.
Right. All right. Next question. I'm sorry. Yeah. Next question. If we do a project as a multidisciplinary between different departments and have advisors from different departments, what is the procedure multiple faculty can be registered as a team?
You want to take it, Prasad?
Sure. I'm trying to interpret this question correctly. So you've got multiple departments, and you have advisors from different departments who are as part of your faculty advisors. And the question is, what is the procedure for multiple faculty to be part of your team? So every team of students between 5 to 15 students needs to have at least one faculty who is assigned as the faculty lead. In addition to the faculty lead, each team can have as many faculty advisors as the team desires and the faculty agree to. So if you have one faculty lead and you've got 5 or 10 different departments from which you've got faculty who are interested in mentoring you on the competition, they can all be listed as faculty advisors. And you can register them. So you can give them the team token and the registration can happen for the faculty advisors, just like it happens for additional team members.
Right. Next question, how is a project partner different from an industry partner?
Okay, project partner, if I have to put it in simple terms, the client who is paying for the building, who is owning the site, is project partner. A client is engaging an architect to design the building. The architect, a consultant, is an industry partner. Okay, anybody who's supporting the team, who's not the owner of the building, who's not the one who is investing into the building, are falling under the industry partner category. Okay, you may have, but every team has only one project partner, but you may have multiple industry partners. You may have one, there are 10 divisions, 10 contests. For each contest, you have a separate industry partner, probably. You may have one water consultant who is specialized, may agree to be your industry partner and give you some inputs. You may have some energy analyst, which you guys may be knowing, or one of your alumni, may be your industry partner and help you guide with the energy part of the competition. I hope if you have not still understood, you can retype the question.
No, maybe Yashima and I can both add also to this. So just to sort of give them a better sense about what these things can be. So like Jagdish said, project partner is somebody who is likely the owner of the building. Industry partners are, in a sense, are all others. All others. So this could be, Jagdish has given multiple examples, but you could also have a glass manufacturer. You could have a supplier of bricks. You could have somebody who is a knowledge partner in terms of saying, I know how HVAC systems are designed, and you can bring that professional on. You can bring an HVAC supplier also. Yashima, any others that you can think of?
Yeah, I was thinking of adding the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and these are just examples. I mean, and they can be anyone else as well. It's not that it's restricted to what Prasad has just said. So, yeah. All right. Moving ahead. Next question. Due to the current COVID situation, we students are completely dispersed. So what measures can we take so that we can have the project partner that is suitable to us, the one that can help us in a way so the site will not be an issue actually? Okay.
You and I can probably both take, and maybe Yashima can also add, because this was the experience from last year's also. So, we've had teams last year who were not able to visit the site at all. But they also had project partners who gave them, site photographs, sometimes even movies and detailed information about, contour plans, etc. So that sometimes it does happen that when you're designing a building, you don't have the ability to actually visit the site, but you just collect the information remotely. And that's one way to operate. Then I think we've had teams where they chose a project partner on a site based on the fact that they had some team members who were closer and were able to travel and take a look at the site. So we've had this combination also last year. And I would suggest that you kind of follow similar approaches. You know what the limitation is with the COVID scenario. So either you try to get adequate information about the site so that you can work remotely, or you find creative ways of trying to understand what the site circumstances are. Anybody wants to add? Yashima?
No, I think
you have covered
it.
More or less everything, Prasad.
All right, moving to the next question. Can we not retrofit a community resilience shelter?
Retrofit is something that is not acceptable. So it's better that you do a fresh building. Only that kind of scenarios are accepted. Retrofit once again falls into brownfield redevelopment kind of scenario.
Right. Thanks, Jagdish. Next question. In the SLMs, through a module, sorry, in the SLMs, though a module is complete, it's showing incomplete the next day, and the interactive modules, even when viewed, it's showing incomplete. So could you tell us a solution for this issue, Prasad?
With the specific person who's having this issue, write an email to Uday@Solar-Decathlon India and bring this to our attention, and we'll try to address it.
And try and attach screenshots of the errors you're getting. That will help our technical team to sort things out.
Right. Next question. If an architect is commissioned for the project, should we work with their office?
See, first and foremost, like I explained before, architects cannot be your project partners. Okay. If an architect is your industry partner, and if he allows you to work in his premises, that's up to them. We don't have any pre-criteria that where you should be working, how you should be working. You want to ask your question again, Venkatesh Babu, if I have not answered?
All right. Until then, I'll move to the next question. In a single family plotted housing, the developer might have different plot sizes. Although the single family housing requirements will be different, how does one pitch in this case?
This is a good question. See, you may be having different types of plots. Let's say there's a single family plotted housing with 200 plots. There may be 8 subtypes. You pick one typology and you do that. You did not build for all types of plots. Okay, you pick one type of plot, you do a design and see how this size plot, the design that you're doing, will fare well in all the other configurations, all the other orientations in the same plotted locality. That's what. We are not expecting you to do for every plot, every subtype. If you want to do, that's up to you. But what we expect is at least one plot type you are addressing. That plot is not a standalone plot. It is part of a plotted housing colony. And there are the same size plot exists in different orientations, etc. And you are also trying to address how your solution is fitting with all the other orientations. Prasad, should I? Is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. If we want to work on a residential building, but we get a project partner who is willing to give us a hospital or educational building as a project, but we have already registered for Solar Decathlon India earlier. So will we be able to change our competition domain from residential to hospital/education building?
Okay. First and foremost, we don't have hospital building category in Solar Decathlon India this year. Okay, it's very complicated building typology. So that's one. 2, yes, you will be able to change your category up to some extent of time. Or 3, you can use the faculty forum and barter your project partners. You say like, okay, I still want to do a residential building only, but I got a project partner with educational. So you go into the forum and say like, who wants a educational building? Get me a residential guy, and you just sit back, exchange project partners.
So you will be able to change your competition division up to deliverable 1. After that, it will be difficult for you to change your competition division. So we need a commitment on the division by then.
So I think October, right, Yashima?
Yeah.
Yep, October.
Yeah, till October you have time.
Yeah.
Of course, having said that, the sooner you get it all figured out, the easier and the better it is for you, because then you can start work on that specific project and that specific building type. You keep changing building types, it just takes you more time to get started and you'll be late compared to the other teams.
See, I'll tell you one of the things why we insist on you starting early is the deliverable one is very important. Unlike any other competition, we give you detailed feedback and comments on every deliverable, which will help you do the deliverable 2 better, deliverable 3 better. So if you are able to start working on deliverable 1 slightly before, then you will be able to put out good work and we'll be able to give you also little better constructive feedback.
Right.
Next question, please.
Yeah, next question. In case of a single family dwelling unit, does the layout / colony proposed should have been already approved by the authorities, or can we have a project partner who is proposing a colony of single family dwelling units?
See, as long as he is proposing in a residential zone and he may get the approval, there shouldn't be a problem. We are not insisting that shows the approval. Okay, because nobody is going to take 100% approvals for something that they're going to build 2-3 years down the line. So just do a sanity check. Just make sure like it is falling within the residential zone. If you're picking up a residential project, just do a little bit of sanity check. And it's not mandatory that he has to have approvals already. If they're there, well and good. If not there also, there's no issue for the competition parameters.
Right. Next question. It's a 2-part question. I think we've already answered the first question about how much time do they have to change the typology. So until deliverable 1, you have the time to change your typology. The second question is, when can we approach you if we don't get any partner? Prasad?
I think this is for Jagdish.
Okay. See, ideally, you do T minus 3 weeks, okay? Or T minus 3.5 weeks. In the sense like deliverable 1 deadline, you see, at least 3 weeks before, you should have had a project partner, right? Even if you assign a project partner for you also, it will take you 3-4 days to get the information, ask the questions back and forth and everything. So to do a good job on deliverable 1, you should have at least 3 weeks of focused work. So back work from the deadline and try and find a project partner before the registrations close. Because by the time registrations close, most of the people would have had a fair idea about what they're going to do, how they're going to go about. The sooner so earliest deadline, I would say like the closure of registrations, because now the number of teams is arrested and you try for another week. Else you, write to us on uday@solardecathlon.in.
Right.
Prasad, you want to add something?
So I think, Jagdish, this is something that we haven't yet discussed within our team, but we will have to figure out an appropriate date when students can say, you know what, I'm throwing my hands up. I can't find a project partner. Please assign it to us.
Okay.
And I think we'll have to declare it to all the teams.
Let's send out a email communication once the registration is closed, once we know who the teams are.
Yeah.
So after the registration is closed, we will send you an intimation mail saying like, okay, by when you should be ideally telling us. Because it will also...
So for example, just for the sake of argument, if we say September 15th, then a team can say, okay, I'm going to strive to find a partner until September 15th. Haven't found one. Okay, give me a project partner so I can get started on this. And some people can say, no, I'm going to continue to work to find a project partner. I'll wait till say October 1st and find a project partner. So I think we need to have a date provided to the teams when they can tell us, give us a project partner, and we'll give them the information.
We can give them a range. Earliest is this, latest is that. After that, we'll not be able to help you out.
Right. All right. Moving to the next question. I think this was in response to the industry partner, project partner conversation that we had. So the question is, can they be renewable energy guys as well? Of course, yes, they can be. Renewable energy consultants also can be your industry partners. Right. All right. Next question.
Or manufacturers also. Instead of
Yes.
manufacturers.
Consultants, manufacturers, both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question. Through the team token, how many people can register? In our case, the team, there are 14 members and 1 faculty lead, but the count is showing 15, and also the maximum number of participation allowed is 15. So the count on the dashboard is same as the maximum allowed number.
Can I take this?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can add one more person. Okay. It shows the number of people in the team, but the maximum number of participants allowed is 15 team members plus team lead. So if you try to attempt one more registration, it will add 15 members of your team plus 1 faculty lead.
So what
Right.
you're telling them is continue to add teams.
Continue to add team members
until it tells you can't add anymore.
Yes. So it has to be 15. See, the 15 is locked to the participants.
Students.
Okay? Students.
Yeah.
And after that, if there are 4 faculty advisors, it will show the team size as 19.
Right. So just to clarify, that 15, the number is for student team members. Faculty, the number, they can be 1, they can be 5. That will be over the 15 number. So yeah. All right. Next question. In selected projects, any upper limitation on number of dwelling units and area, etc.?
We do not have any upper limit as of now. We only have the lower limit. We defined if you are talking about single family housing, we are saying like the plot area cannot be more than this, but the plotting colony can be as large as possible. And in multifamily housing, we have defined the lower limit. At least 8 connected dwelling units have to be there. There's no upper limit. In the same way, office buildings also, we have not defined any limit. There's the minimum criteria is there. And so like that, definitions are there in the project, this competition guide, right?
Yeah. In
each category. If you still have any other question that you want to specifically ask, you can write to us on uday@solardecathlon.india.in. We'll send you a response.
Right. Next question. Can a foreign university faculty member be our faculty advisor or as a knowledge partner?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Regarding the SLM's feedback form is not getting accepted, as it's the same case for me too. I think the SLM feedback form is not getting accepted is the question. So I think these SLM and learning management related queries, you can write to us at uday@solardecathlon.india.in, and we will look into those queries from there.
Kindly take a screenshot of the error that you are facing so that it will help us. Any error that you are reporting, kindly take a screenshot and attach it with the email that you are sending.
Right. I am just sending in the link to the competition guide as well. So you can access the competition guide here, and the details about all the project divisions and other details as well, deliverable details are mentioned in the competition guide. So it is like a mandatory thing to read your competition guide when you're taking part in the competition. Next question, should an industry partner be associated with the project, or it can be any expert known to us who can share their knowledge?
It can be any expert known to you. The industry partners need not be associated with the project.
Right. Next question, if the client is ready to accommodate us and if the architect of the project accepts, can we work in tandem with them or should we work independently?
Either one is fine. You can work in tandem with them and that would be fantastic. If you want to work independently, that's also fine.
Right. Okay, next question. By what time should one team finish their SLMs?
January 10th, 2022.
Yes. Yeah.
Every SLM has the completion date written at the top of it, right under the learning objectives. So, and that date is January 10th, 2022. If we end up changing that date for some reason, it will be listed there or you'll be sent a notification.
Right. Also, one thing I would like to add is, even though the date is January 10th, we will be beginning with our technical webinars from the end of next month. And it would be good for you to watch the respective SLM before the webinar so that you are able to relate with what the expert is talking about. It will be helpful for you. So, yeah. And one last question we have for today. For single family housing unit, do we have to have it in and around a colony, or our single family housing module itself should be a colony? Okay, that's
okay. Sure. It's like, I'll try and interpret. Okay, there's an existing colony already. There's a vacant plot available. That is the scenario that Yash may be talking about. Okay, there's a colony that's already built. There's a single vacant plot, and he wants to design on that vacant plot. That kind of thing is not acceptable. There should be an upcoming plotted development where you are taking one type of plot and you are doing iterations on that type of plot. Prasad?
Yeah, I think that's
correct interpretation, right?
Correct.
So do not pick standalone plots in existing colonies. These have to be upcoming future developments.
Yeah.
Right. Meanwhile, we've had another question.
I'm going to add some sort of an intermediate question to Jagdish, and I think we need to maybe discuss this openly, Jagdish. So what if I have a plotted development in which 10% of the plots have houses that are built? Can we take that? You
can take that because it's in phases, right? It falls in the phases category.
Or, 10% of the people have built their houses or whatever. What about 50% houses that are built?
50% also I'll accept.
90%?
No. Then
so how do we decide that something is acceptable? I think the answer to this might be, and I'm having this open discussion, the intent here is that you build a house or you design a house on a plot where opportunities on other plots exist.
Yeah.
So if you've got 8 plots and all of them face different orientations on that site, and those are the only ones that are vacant, I think that would be acceptable for us, right, Jagdish? Because
it should be acceptable. It should be acceptable. See, the goal that we are trying to do, Prasad, is like whatever work these students have worked very hard, it should have scalability. Yeah. Okay, if they are doing this exercise in a project where there are only 8 vacant plots are left, their idea can only be implemented 8 times. If it's 100% vacant scenario, it can be picked up 800 times. They would have lot more outreach and lot more change that they can bring in.
Yes.
And it will also make sense for the developer point of view also, because he'll see economies of scale. He'll also get different ideas.
So, but from a Solar Decathlon India challenge standpoint, you need to pick a plotted development where multiple plots that face different orientations are accessible to you, are vacant, so that your design could be applied to those scenarios.
We should be able to be happy with that.
Yeah.
That kind of definition.
All right. Thank you. Next question. Any contractors could be a project partner?
The contractors could be project partners in the scenario of on-site construction worker housing. Okay. And in any other building typology, somebody is the owner, somebody is just building it as a contractor without any stake in the project, then no.
Jagdish, what about a joint venture where a contractor and a
joint venture
come together?
Joint venture, then he is the co-building owner, right?
Right.
He has a stake in the company.
Stake in the building, yeah.
See, when it's joint venture, he's a developer. He's not merely a contractor.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that for you guys, that's an important role to understand. they need to have a stake in the ownership of the development.
So if somebody has a joint venture, then he is your project partner.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't have any joint venture, he's just picking it up as a job work that he is doing the contract. He's getting paid for the material, labor, and profit. Then it's not.
All right. Okay, we've had a couple of more questions. First is, can the owner be the project partner?
Yes, the owner is the project partner.
Right. And another question, sometimes the contractors like Shapurji, Palonji, or their associated group, which is an example that we've gotten, builds their own project. Can they be our project partner?
Yes, they can be a project partner. In that case, they are becoming developers. They are developing their own asset. They are playing the role of the developer as well as the contractor. So they are essentially the developer, owners of that. So in this scenario, yes, they can be your project partner. They own the piece of land, or they own, they are the joint venture developers.
Right. And that's all for the questions that we've got from our attendees today. Anything you want to close this? Anything you want to say to close the session today, Jagdish Prasad?
Jagdish, anything?
I have been speaking. No, it's like, see, I'll tell you, this is the most exciting phase of Solar Decathlon India, finding a project partner. Okay. So this exercise actually is going to help you make right connections. If you have a good project where the project partner is actually equally enthused, you will come up with a good output, which will eventually get implemented. This is one thing we have seen. The teams that have found their own project partners within their own cities and found good industry partners have come out with better output. And the project partners also tended to implement in part or in toto later. And in many cases, the teams have been absorbed as independent or group of interns by the project partners after the competition is over. So this exercise is something that you are doing for the future. It's not only going to help you in the project, in the competition, it's also going to help you beyond the competition.
Yeah, and I think I want to close by repeating something that I heard when I was talking to one of the faculty leads from the last year's challenge. And he said to me, Solar Decathlon India, the challenge begins with partnerships. And this is very, very true. Those partnerships are on many different levels. You have partnerships within your team, because you're collaborating with different departments. You have multidisciplinary teams. You have industry partners who are providing you knowledge and technologies. That's another type of partnership. And the project partner is a very, very important partnership that you need to develop. So take these partnerships as something that helps you build your network. And networks are very important going into the profession. They help you to get jobs. They help you to get your, they advance your career. So this Solar Decathlon India gives you the opportunity, the legitimacy to build your network and take these partnerships seriously. They'll really be helpful going forward.
Right. Thank you, Prasad, and thank you, Jagdish. Meanwhile, we've got one more question, and I think it's important that we take that one. And the question is, what's TRG Connect on the website? And by website, I mean, Abhishek is talking about the learning management system. So TRG is the technical resource group. These are alumni from global solar decathlons. These people have taken part in solar decathlons, US, China, Europe, etc. And they are now professionals in the industry. They will be made available to you, and you can reach out to them in case you have queries related to your project. Of course, they will not be spoon feeding you with answers, but they will be able to guide you in a certain direction. And as of now, we have the TRG profiles on our website, and I'm sharing the link for that as well in the chat box. You can look at them. Their expertise are also mentioned, and very soon they will be accessible to you via the learning management system. Yeah, and then you'll be able to connect with them and talk to them about your queries. So and I think that's all for today. I hope we have been able to answer your questions related to the project partner hunt that all of you are on. And we hope that in case you have not registered, you will register soon. And we wish you the very best for the competition. It's going to be a challenging one. So we look forward to seeing some great work from all of you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.